Hey, good morning, all. I am just recording a little coding lesson here. Seeing no one was able to make it onto the lesson last night, which is okay because I missed the one before that myself, thanks to a little cyclone action. But anyway, I'll just go through a couple of little points here for you guys so you got something. And yeah, if you got any questions about it all, just shoot it through in our chat group. Okay, here we are back on our coding course EA that we've sort of been using to demonstrate and everything. Just to recap what we've done on here so far. Just in our on-tick function here is we have set up a 1 hour. This just determines the 1 hour trend. So we're determining the current 1 hour trend and the 1 hour trend 10 candles ago. And by subtracting the old one from the current one, we'll either get a positive or a negative value. Positive is a buy trend, negative is a sell trend. So that's what we've got there. And then down here, we are calculating the RSI value. So we've calculated the, so IRSI gives you the current, well, it gives you an RSI value. In this case, we're getting the RSI value averaged out over the last 14 candles based off the open price of the candle. And the zero here indicates the current candle. And then we're also working out the previous RSI value for exactly the same, 14 candles from the open price, but from not the current candle, but the previous candle. And then down here, we have our actual trade logic. And so it's going to place a buy order. So it's only going to place the buy order if orders total is less than 1. So if there are currently no open trades and the previous RSI value, so the previous one, the candle before, was less than the user input RSI. And the user input RSI here was 30. So if the previous candle was less than 30, and then the current candle is greater than 30, meaning it's gone below 30 and then come back above 30. And if the current 1 hour trend is greater than 0, meaning it's a buy trend on the 1 hour, then it will place a buy order. And the same for the sell order, but we're using the RSI, so the previous candle and the current candle, but we're using the other user input for the high end of the RSI scale. And in this case, we have the default RSI H set at 70. So what we're saying here is if there's no current orders open and the previous candle went above 80 and then the current candle goes below 80 and the 1 hour trend is a sell, less than 0 is a sell, then it will place a sell order. And then we didn't go into the apply trailing stop loss code too much. It's a little more complex, but what this line of code here does, it calls a function that we've created down further called apply trailing stop. And that's from here, all of this code down here is the apply trailing stop code. So by having this sorry, come up a little more. By having this apply trailing stop written here like this inside the onTick function, it just calls that code below. So whenever you put this in here, it's going to call that code below. And obviously, if the conditions are met and the trade's in profit, it's going to start a trailing stop loss following behind. It's as simple as that. And so this is the end of the onTick. So this curly bracket here is the end of the onTick function. And then after that, we have some functions that we've created. We've got one for just to place a buy order, very, very basic ones for the moment, and a sell order, and then we've got the apply trailing stop loss. So that's what we all have in there so far. So let's take what we have across to the strategy tester. I'm just trialing it out on pound yen. So a common spread for pound yen is about 20 points, 2 pips. These are the settings we have to change. We can add a stop loss or a take profit, our lot size, and our low and high RSI values. So we'll just leave them as they are there for the moment. And we're going to run it on the 15-minute time frame. So the RSI values are going to be calculated on the 15-minute time frame, but it's also factoring in the 1 hour trend. So let's just start it and see how it looks. So we're waiting for the RSI here to go either above or below the 30 and 70 line. And then when it comes back below it, it will activate it and do its thing. So we can see that the RSI has gone above 70 and it looks to be coming below. Okay, it's crossed down below, but we haven't got a trade. That will simply be because the 1 hour trend is going to be a buy trend. So because the 1 hour trend is a sell, it's looking just to do, sorry, if the 1 hour trend's a buy, it's only looking for buy orders. So it's looking for the RSI to go below 30 and then back above. So at the moment, even though the RSI conditions have been met, the 1 hour trend condition hasn't been met. Anyway, back testing on the visual mode's a lot slower, but it is good just to be able to visually see and make sure that the trades are occurring how you expect them to and following your actual strategy. And then, you back test without the visual mode so that you can back test a larger period of time a lot quicker. So we did go below and then back above. So it placed put the cursor there, it placed a buy order. But then the market came down and we hit the stop loss. So if we have a look on the graph, we would have taken a loss. And if we have a look, we've gone very close to hitting the take profit, which was just there, but not quite. And then it's retraced. And I just realized we didn't have the trailing stop loss quite set properly yet. There's a bit of code there we haven't put in to make the trailing stop work better. But if we had a trailing stop loss, it would have activated, where have we set it at, but somewhere before we hit take profit. And that way, instead of, even though we almost hit take profit, we ended up taking a loss. But with the trailing stop loss, we would have activated that. And as it started to retrace, we would have hit the trailing stop loss here somewhere, and it would have been a small profit. So that's a perfect example of why we need something like a trailing stop to lock in profit, because there's nothing worse than almost hitting your take profit and then end up hitting your stop loss. So that's the value of a trailing stop. Jump back to a little bit more strategy testing first. I've got it set to test this strategy over 1 full month, and we'll do it without the visual mode, and we'll quickly whiz through it, see what it does. And it's taken out 21 trades for the month, and the majority of them have been losing ones. Now, as like this first trade, we know if we had that trailing stop loss working, it would have given us at least a small profit. So that would have saved us a fair bit of time. One thing I like to do on the strategy tester is you can just have a look on the results and have a look at those losing trades. And it's $106 every time you lose. So just a smidge over. This is a $10,000 account, so it's just a little bit over a 1% loss, which is working on 1%. My usual go-to for backtesting stuff. And then what we do with backtester, which we've sort of covered a bit already, we can then tighten up the requirements. So it's going to have to go all the way up to 20, all the way down to 25, and all the way up to 75. So we've got a 5 difference on either of those. And that shouldn't happen as often. So we're going to get a lot less trades, but they should be more accurate. We got 21 trades last time. This time we only got 10 trades. We still took a 6.5% loss for the month, so still not good enough. And then the other things you can do is play with your risk to reward. So, if we move the stop loss further away and the take profit closer, we should have more wins, but the losses are going to be bigger. So we had 4 wins and 3 losses, but because the risk to reward was so poor, we still ended up, we lost more money this time. And then you can just play around with these variables till you get it better. So, we might have a 100 stop loss and a 200 take profit. So now we've got a nice positive risk to reward, 1 to 2. And the reason we got a lot more trades this time was because the trades were playing out quicker, because we were hitting that stop loss a lot quicker. And you'll find, depending on what time frame you're on, you will, need more or less distance between your stop losses and take profits. But we're not expecting to make a fortune off this strategy yet. It's a pretty poor one. Look at that, we managed to lose every trade this time. Okay, so what we might do now is go through a couple other little bits of code that I wanted to go through. And if we get around to it, we'll fix up that trailing stop loss so it's working. So this is our one tick function. So let's just create a little bit more code here. Now, this won't improve the performance too much, but it's a common little filter to have on an EA. It's just a spread filter. So if the spread's too large, it won't take out a trade, which is pretty important because otherwise, if the spread, like it does at the market opens and during red folder news events, it can be, instead of being like in our strategy tester, I had the pound yen set to 20 points, the spread set to 20 points. On market open and on red folder news events, that 20 spread can become 150 or even 200 points. So it's a huge difference, and that means the market has to move that much further in order to take any sort of profit, and has to move that much less to take a loss, hit your stop loss. So this is very, very simple. We're just setting a variable we're going to call current spread, and symbol info integer, it can just retrieve information, in this case about a symbol. So underscore symbol, so we're talking about the current chart symbol, and we just want the symbol spread. And so now the current spread is going to equal our variable called current spread. That's all that's doing. It's very, very simple. Back up here in our user inputs, we could put an input in called whatever, spread filter equals 20. So that's something the user can vary in the EA settings. And if we come back down to our trade logic, just here, and we can just add another requirement before it'll take out a buy order. And so we'll just go and we'll add in a new one. We'll go if current spread, if current spread is less than spread filter. So spread filter is the user input that we've set at 20. So the current spread will need to be less than 20, the spread filter, before it'll take out a trade. And then we can just place that in the same, exactly the same, so that it requires that spread to be below our user input before it'll do a sell order as well. So that's an extremely simple bit of code, but can be important, So otherwise, if the market opens and you've got your EA on, it's going to take out a trade and the spread's going to be huge. You'll probably take a loss. If not, the market's going to have to move a long way for you to take profit. And you really are just, I wouldn't say silly, but you just can't take out a trade that first half hour to 1 hour after a market open because all the spreads are just crazy big. And just to recap, we've just retrieved the current spread of the symbol, the chart that's open that the EA is on. We've retrieved that with this and assigned that value to a variable we've called current spread. And spread filter is just the user input. And depending on the pair, like if this was on pound yen, let's just compile that first, make sure it all looks good, which it is. And if we go back to the strategy tester and open up the properties, we'll see we've got a spread filter now. So if we were trading pound yen, which often is a little bit above 20, I might want to set the spread filter at 30. But if I was trading, say, Euro US, then I would possibly put the spread filter at 10 because the spread's a lot less in general on Euro US than it is on pound yen. So that's how I would play with that. And that's how you'd incorporate just a spread filter. Extremely, extremely simple, but very handy. That'll just mean that if you left your EA on, it's not going to trade that first hour until the spreads get lower. During a few minutes, possibly before and just after a major news event, it's not going to trade because the spread's going to be too large, and this will filter that out, and it won't trade. Another bit of code that you're probably going to want to use in EAs quite often is some code so that you can limit exactly when the EA will trade. So you could have it all turned on 24 hours a day, but you might set it to only trade between 6 and 7 o'clock or something like that. And I won't go into detail on this just at the moment, but if we set a couple of variables here, current hour and current minute, so hour will retrieve the current hour and minute will retrieve the current minute. And then this will be how many hours after the market opens, and how many minutes. So if we put in a comment here, and this might be some info as well, if we in here, if with comments, if you put it in quotes, it's going to print that word, and then you can just put a comma, and I'll put, so it's going to write current hour, and then it's going to return the value of current hour. And this little one here, if you do quotes, backslash and quotes, that will just tell it to do the next lot on the next line. And we'll do current minute on this one. All right, so that should print the current hour and the current minute on our chart. Compiles fine. And back to here, and in visual mode, we will kick him off. Okay, so on the strategy tester, it's starting at the start of market open on the 9th of the 1st. So up here, this is the first 15-minute candle of the day right here. So there's been no hours yet, but we're 8 minutes into it. So I'll run it again here in a minute. And when this 8 gets to 15, because we're on the 15-minute time frame, we'll see the second candle start. 13, 14, 15, 13, 14, 15, and the second candle has started. So you can see that that time's accurate based off the candles. and that time will be equivalent to the market watch time here. So the same for everyone around the world, barring a couple of anomalies from weird brokers. So if you wanted to, to your EA to start trading, let's say 5 hours after market open, we could use these variables to accomplish that. By we could simply put an if statement in here. If current hour is greater than 5, right? So we just said we wanted to have our EA start trading 5 hours after market open. So we just have to have a requirement here that if current hour is greater than 5, we'll set another variable. We'll call it whatever, it doesn't matter. We'll call it time. What do we call it? We'll call it correct time. There we go. Correct time equals true. And then we might put in an else statement here. Else, just space it all out so we can understand a bit better. Else, correct time equals false. Now, because we want this, we've got to initialize this variable yet, but because we're just wanting either a true or false return, that's going to be a bool. So I'll just come back up here and we'll just initialize it by calling it a bool. Correct time, and we'll just set it as false to start with. So it won't trade until the current hour is greater than 5. That'll make that true. And if it's not greater than 5, then it'll be false. And down here in our trade logic, we would just have to add that's all we would need to put. And then correct time, which that's going to want a true result there. So if correct time is true, then it will trade. If correct time is false, then it won't trade. Now, just on another quick little note, if for some reason you were using a bool and you wanted, let's say we wanted this to trade only if correct time returned false, then we could just put an exclamation mark there, which means if not correct time. So now it's going to need correct time to be false before it will place, in this case, place a buy order. So if you want the result to be true, then you just do that. If you want the result to be false to meet your criteria, you put in the exclamation mark. Now, I'm just going to show you how this works. I'm just going to put in here I'll just type in what have I forgotten? I've forgotten a curly bracket after the else. Okay, now we're all good. So now when I run it on the strategy tester, it's going to print correct time, and then it's going to print the correct time variable, which should be either true or false. And that'll just give you a visual representation so you know if the time is correct for trading or not. So we will jump back to the strategy tester and we will start him up. And so it's saying correct time is false. Okay, so we know this is the first candle for the day, so it's not even 1 hour after market open. And so we'll just I'll just go a little bit fast. We'll watch this. It's true now. So now we're more than 5 hours after market open. So it's true. So now it can trade. Now this is very, very basic time parameter calculations. The only issue with these ones will be that once this gets all the way through and back to 1, then it will be less than 1 hour, so it won't trade. You'd have to do a little bit more mathematical manipulation of the hour and the minutes in order to handle if you wanted it to start sort of before the start of a new day and roll into the next day, so it traded during that time. So just slightly confusing mathematics to make that happen, but so I won't get into it now, but you can see how you can set time parameters just like that quite simply. And if all you ever wanted to do was have it trade between 5 and 7 hours, then you just need, well, we've got it set to start after 5 hours. And then we could also, just easily add if correct time was less than a user input variable we might call end time, or if you could change that 5 to a user input called start time, and we could put this user variable, make this 6 the user variable that you could change to end time. So if we did that, then it would be starting at our start time, and if correct time is we would need to have if current hour was greater than 6, then we could say correct time equals false. So if it's greater than 5, then correct time's true, meaning it can trade. But then if the current hour got greater than 6, it would change correct time to false. So therefore we wouldn't be able to trade. So that's just giving us that 1 hour window when the EA could trade. All right, guys, that might do for today. Not technical code today, but just some, particularly the time parameter ones. That would be something that, the vast majority of strategies could benefit from having incorporated in it. All right, guys, I'll leave it to you. I'll talk to you all again later.